What's up everybody, Zach here with Sew Yeah Quilting. In this video I'm going to show you how to make this awesome flock of geese quilt. Let's get started. So to make this quilt you're going to need 4 different fabrics. You're going to need 1 yard of fabrics A, B, and C, and then a ½ yard of fabric D. So before we start actually assembling this thing, I just want to point something out here. This obviously very unique quilt and also very fun. It would be great say for like an I Spy quilt because you could get your prints that have a lot of like iconic pieces on them or images, and you have a big enough area here to where you could actually keep those intact. And then the geese, or the little triangles going around, break it up and give it a lot of movement. For the one where we're going to be building in this tutorial, however, we're going to be using Not Your Mama's Garden, a little bit of solid, a little bit of a blender. It won't be an I Spy quilt, but it is going to be stunning when it's done. So, as you can see, I've gone ahead and cut my fabrics into my 8.5-inch squares and my 3-inch squares. There's a lot of cutting involved in this one. Obviously, anytime you have a bunch of little pieces, that's going to be the case. So, go ahead, pause the video, cut, and then come back. And you're back. Okay, I'm going to start just with fabric A. I'm going to take my 3-inch squares of fabric A and then my 3-inch squares of fabric D. I'm going to put those right sides together. And now it's going to be the same thing with fabrics A, B, and C. You're going to take your 3-inch squares, pair them with your 3-inch squares of your accent fabric, fabric D, and you're going to be making some half square triangles here. Then what you're going to do is you're going to take a pen and make a diagonal line on this square, just like this. Then we're going to take this and sew a 1/4-inch seam on each side of that line that we just made. Now that we have this sewn, what we're going to do is take our ruler, put it on that line, and then we're going to cut this thing straight in half on that line that we made. And then that is going to give us our little half square triangles, which you can see all along the borders of this. So now, as I mentioned before, you're gonna have a lot of cutting involved, so go ahead and repeat this process a million times until you have all of your squares put together. So I've got all of these half square triangles sewn together at this point because Ian said it was absolutely necessary. I did. I'm going to cut them out, press them obviously, and then we'll go over the assembly because that part is a little tricky. Okay, so fabric A is taken care of. I'm going to take my now completed pieces and set those aside and then move on through the rest of them. Alright, now that I have my pieces cut out, we're going to start assembling this. Now it's pretty straightforward, but there is one thing you need to watch out for as you're putting these blocks together. For the sake of clarity on the camera, we're actually going to start with block B. Our 8.5-inch square is going to stay right there. And you're going to make 2 different strips of these half square triangles. You're going to make a strip of 4 that has all of your accent fabrics pointing to the bottom right, and then you're going to make a second strip that has them going to the bottom left. We have 4 pieces here and 5 pieces here. The reason for that is when you take these 5 pieces and you put them in place on the other side of your block, you turn them like that, now it makes it where they're all pointing in the same direction. Ultimately you want everything pointing to the bottom right. Now, I'm going to take my half square triangles and put them right sides together, and we're going to just do a 1/4-inch seam on them. Now we'll add on our next square. We want that. So now we have those rows sewn together. The next step is going to be to take our row of 4 half square triangles. We're going to lay that right sides together with the bottom of our 8.5-inch square. And now with that sewn on there, the next step will be to take our row of 5 pieces and attach that right here. Alright, our first block is down. Now I'm going to do the same thing with our other block, and then I'll show you how you assemble all your pieces together to make the pattern you see behind me. Alright, and then we have our second block. Now, as far as the assembly goes for this quilt, it is very simple. You just have to watch out for the orientation of your pieces. So go ahead and take your first block, and you want to lay it down with all of the accent pieces, the little triangles pointing to the bottom right. Then, you're going to take your second block, and you're going to flip it 180 degrees, just like that. Boom. Then, when you put these two edges together, it's going to create this right here. Okay, I'm going to sew these two pieces together just so you can see that assembled, and then from there we'll go over the final assembly of the entire quilt. Okay, so here we have our first two quilt blocks sewn together. This gives you the idea of what is about to happen for the rest of this quilt. Now, something I want to point out here is you have to pay really close attention to the orientation of your blocks when you're doing this. So let's just take this row right here. So as you can see, here's our block 1. All of our little triangles are pointing down to the right. That was the first block we did. Block 2, it's flipped 180 degrees. All our triangles are pointed up and to the left. Okay? Then we flip it again, down to the right. Flip it again, up to the left. That continues across the width of the quilt. Now, from right here, when we come down to our next row, we're going to turn that block 90 degrees. So all of our triangles are pointing up and to the right. Okay? Down to the right, up to the right. Okay? And then from there, our next block here is going to be flipped 180 degrees from that one, all pointing down to the left. So I wanted to point that out, just to make sure you don't get through the whole quilt and then realize, oh wait, it doesn't look quite the same as this one in the example. All the difference is you're starting off either down to the right, or you start up to the left. So now I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of these finished up, and we'll see what the final result is. And there you have it. Quilt top is finished, and it is looking awesome. Check this out, guys. This, as I said at the beginning, Not Your Mama's Garden, first edition, as well as some solids thrown in there. And I want to just point that out because in the very near future, our next line, Botanic Blast, will be coming out through Riley Blake. So make sure to stay tuned for some new announcements on that. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. The pattern is free down in the description below. Check that out, as well as links to all the different products you have seen here. Thank you, Tiankum. I appreciate that. Tiankum's wiggly dancing in the background. Now, if you like the pattern, it is free in the description below. Check that out, as well as links to all the materials you see here, sewing machines, notions, rotary cutters, all of that, and much more on our website. Thank you so much. Please like, subscribe, share with your friends. You know how all that goes, and we will see you next time here at Sew Yeah Quilting.